Aretha. I don't even need to say her last name. You know who I'm talking about. I mean, here she is, this little bitty girl singing gospel at the New Bethel Baptist Church in Detroit, Michigan, when she was just a little kid. I mean, she's an absolute icon, referred to as the Queen of Soul. And even with all that fame and all the money she made, what is it that she wanted more than that? Just like what everybody else wants: respect. In today's video, we'll dig into what respect is and why, no matter who you are, rich, poor, famous, not famous, that respect is a big deal and it's totally acceptable for you to want it too. So 3 things that every person desires: dignity, worth, and respect. But we have a tendency to want other people to give these things to us. It doesn't really work that way. These are things that you must give to yourself, but most people never learned how. And not knowing how to do something usually shows up in feelings of feeling lost, feeling confused, feeling not good enough, and wondering, what do other people know that I don't know? So you look over here and you see Susan. She leads her teammates with a way that is so clear and confident. And you wonder, how does she do that? And you see Michelle with her children, and it's like they all listen to her and somehow they have this great connection and communication. But you with yours, not so much. And you wonder, how does she do that? And then you see Diana, who keeps getting promoted, and she's so young, but somehow everybody likes her. And you wonder, how does she do that? Well, I'll let you in on a little secret. There are about 85% of American families that never taught their children how to care for or love themselves. It wasn't taught in their families, their schools, their local organizations, or their work. If anything, we were taught just the opposite. Pay attention to what others want. Do what the authority figure wants you to do so you don't get in trouble. And basically, what we learned were survival skills. We figured these out on our own. So you should definitely congratulate yourself on the amazing and complex maneuvers that you came up with just so that you could survive this jungle called childhood. So surviving is something that you've done. And believe it or not, it's a skill you learned, you taught yourself, and you're good at it. But there's no love in surviving. And so now you're wanting to learn maybe a skill that goes beyond surviving, but you don't know how. And because you learned these other skills, there's just some weird assumption that you're just supposed to know how to do this other thing going beyond surviving called thriving. So is there a self-respect skill? Maybe. I don't know it. But what I do know is that there is a self-love skill. And it takes self-love to get self-respect. When you love yourself, you will respect yourself. And when you respect yourself, others are going to respect you just as well. But first, learning to love yourself is crucial. And I use the word love because most people don't. Not because of that, but most people think of love, self-love in particular, as a feeling, which it is. But it's more than that. It's a skill. It's a skill you can learn. So along with the skill of learning what it means to love yourself, the natural byproduct from that comes from getting these great new qualities. Qualities like being patient with yourself, having kindness for yourself, being grateful for yourself. That one's always a challenge for people. You learn more clarity and confidence and courage and how to listen in a different way and how to speak to people so that they are hearing your words and you are hearing theirs. And probably the biggest one of all is you're learning to respect yourself. Now, whether someone's part of the lucky 15 to 20% of Americans that were actually taught how to care and love for themselves, or whether someone took courses or whatever and learned that skill, it really doesn't matter. That part's irrelevant. The part I want you to hear is that learning how to love and care for yourself is a skill that you can learn. And okay, I just went through the part about the America households. Okay, so I wanted to spell also a myth really quick. Many people say, well, I just am who I am. And I'm going to say, let's look at that a little bit deeper. You're showing up as who you were taught to be and who you think you're supposed to be. But each one of us is special, unique, different, unusual, maybe quirky, maybe edgy, maybe eccentric. But until you really learn who you are, you're going to be wearing this costume where you're playing the parts that you think other people want you to play. And if you keep doing that, which you can do if you want to, you're never going to find the true you. So let me share a little bit about what do I mean by that? So I'm going to share a little example about myself and my life. My mom is an extrovert. She is a social butterfly. Me, not so much. I mean, I can do social, but not like my mom. I'm like the quiet one in the corner. When I was growing up, my mom would be like, come on, let's go. And I'd be like, no, I just want to read my book. And she'd go, what is wrong with you? Don't you want to visit all the lovely people? Come with me, put that book down. Let's go to the party. And I was like, no. And she was like, yes, right? And so of course I had to go. So do you think that my mom was actually trying to create problems for me? No, of course not. Her parties, to her, parties were awesome. And she wanted awesome for me as well. And parties and people fed her needs, like extroverts, it does that. But it didn't feed mine. Being an extrovert, that was just like overkill for me. But even though she may have meant well, I'll say it. I didn't feel respected. And look, I don't want to diss my mom, but I do want you to see what I mean, like in real time. So I'm going to share what I got out of scenarios. And it was kind of like that, that were kind of like, I don't matter. My feelings didn't matter. What I wanted didn't matter. What I didn't want didn't matter. It seemed to me in my little bitty brain that only what she wanted mattered. So I learned survival skills to negotiate what to do or not do so I don't get in trouble. What to do when I feel uncomfortable. What to do if I feel like I'm not being respected. And this put on like all these, what I'll call costume pieces parts. So another example, just so you can get another clear visual. I had a client who told me a story about when she was 8 years old. We'll call her Shay. Shay told her dad that she wanted a new bike, just like the little girl down the street had gotten a new bike and it was pretty and shiny and she wanted one too. And her dad, who was actually an alcoholic, had recently lost his job and was generally an angry man, but was even angrier lately. So when she asked for the new bike, for whatever reason, we're not even going to try to figure out what about dad, but he got enraged and he ended up slapping her across the face. He screamed at her things like, who do you think you are? Money doesn't grow on trees. You can't just ask for a new bike and have it just show up. And just really, really, really upsetting. And of course, Shay was banished to her bedroom, but tears streaming and everything like this. I guess I want to have you look at that and see, what do you think the message was that she received? Do you think she felt worthy? Do you think she felt loved? Does anything in that story sound like she had just even an inkling of respect, even being a little person? Actually, what she was taught was that she didn't matter. Okay. And it wasn't an intentional teaching. It's just kind of the way that it is. These things happen, right? So because she knew that if she did matter, her dad would not have talked to her that way. She was being trained, if you will, that it was her fault that her dad got mad, that there must be something wrong with her. And she needed to figure it out to, how do I be different so that my dad doesn't get mad at me? So she made little unconscious notes to herself. You're not worthy. Put the costume hat on. Don't ask for things because you don't deserve them. And put these boots on, right? Be careful what you say around dad because you might make him mad. There's the scarf. So unfortunately, as children, we experience many scenes like this. Some are worse, some are better. We're not comparing, but we want to start paying attention. We want to pay attention to where lack of respect comes from, why it's in our psyche. Why do we feel like we're not enough? So, did you see any respect from Shay's dad to her? Me neither. And just like my mom, even though she didn't mean anything bad by it, it was really like she wasn't showing me respect either. Now, did she know to be able to do that? Of course not. These things weren't available to parents, right? So, in a way, in a little bitty way, we kind of give them a little bit of a pass that they didn't know. Could they have known they were being mean, rude, ugly, hateful, doing really destructive things? Yes, of course. But just the general things, the kind of innocuous things like, come on, go to the party, it'll be fun. She had no idea what an introvert and an extrovert was. So, anyway, we're still, regardless of whether they meant it or didn't mean it, it's like we're taught things from our parents. Again, I'm not making them right or wrong. It's just the way that life showed up until now. And now we've got so much more available to us to learn. But everything that happened taught us, like growing up, taught us as we were growing up to either move toward something that was love-based and respectful, or it was moving more toward fear-based and not so respectful. And this is why we often think respect and other needs that we have should come from other people. Because as we were growing up, we got all that good, bad, and otherwise from others. But this is what I wanted you to hear. It doesn't come from other people. It all comes from within you. So let me wrap up the story with Shay. It might help you understand what I'm talking about. So what Shay's dad said or didn't doesn't make it true. She, just because he said particular statements and she felt unworthy and unlovable and undeserving, that doesn't make it true. It was a statement, and that's how it was interpreted by her. So when we started working together, that's what she was feeling. And it took a minute to unwind all of that because she had tied that hat on tight and she had those boots all zipped up and that scarf was just there. And for some reason, we hang on super, super tight to those because we somehow think that they must be true. What we ended up doing was dismantling all the knots that were there, so that she could begin to remove those pieces of the costumes that she had been wearing for decades. And we did it all through her learning how to self-love. And if you ask her now, she will tell you she has plenty of respect for herself because she has plenty of love for herself. So let's go back over a little bit. Respect is a universal human need. It's totally and completely appropriate to want to have respect. You can find respect within yourself as you learn to love yourself. Loving yourself is not just a feeling like, oh, I just love myself. It's not. It's a skill, and it's a skill you can learn. So I want you to know that there is hope, and to help you on your way to finding more respect and love for yourself, I have a free for you resource in the self-study area. So you can learn more about you, start your own grow your own self-love and self-respect. So get started in the self-love area where there's videos, downloads, master classes, articles, books, ebooks, quizzes, and more. And everything that's in there is about helping you on your self-love journey. Now, this is part 1 of these 3-week series. Next week is They Don't Listen, right? And the third one is Be Seen, Heard, and Valued. That's a good one. And I hope you come back every Tuesday at 2 right here and join me, ask questions, learn a little more about yourself. And I'm Deb Pearson, helping you become more awesome on the inside.